You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio, man. We are here once again. And man, today we have another awesome show lined up for y'all today. Today, man, we're going to talk to a motivated leader and a awesome businessman. We're going to talk to Rich LaMonica. He is a awesome person, individual that we're going to have on the show today to learn about. We're going to talk about today's topic, finding purpose. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Rich, for your service to the United States, being with the Army. And I just want to say welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's an honor to be here. And again, thank you for no problem me serving my country. I enjoyed it. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Man, you also are the founder of the amazing website, the misfitnation.com. And man, tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into today's topic.
Awesome. Yeah. Originally from New Jersey, born and raised there in the 70s. I was the fourth of four children. Grew up in what's called a railroad apartment. So all the rooms were connected. There was no hallway. So you went from the living room to my sister's room, my parents' room, and then a room with three boys in it. And as you know, a room with three boys means nothing but trouble. And that's what was in that room for many years until my oldest brother joined the Navy. And then me and my other brother, we just kind of grew up without him for probably 6 years till he came back from the Navy. When it came time for me to go to high school, I went to the same high school my parents went to, and Dickinson High School. And my goal was to join the Army. That was all I wanted to do. So I went to like all the classes that would get you in the Army. So I took the basic classes for 2 years just to get by, and then like shop classes. So graphic arts, a metal shop, fine arts, carpentry, auto mechanics, things like that. And then at the end of my junior year, I told my dad I was going to join the Army. He said, "No, you're not. Enough of us have served. You have to go to college. You have to be the one that goes to college." So for my senior year, while all my classmates were just hanging out, basically doing a couple classes, going home, I was taking all those sciences and maths that I missed for junior year and sophomore year. So for my senior year, so my whole class, I was in school all day, then I'd work at night. And then at the end of senior year, I took the SAT test and somehow I passed it. I don't know how. And I got to Berkeley College in New York. I went there for a year, transferred to St. Peter's College in New Jersey, and walked on to play football for 2 years. We lost every game, so I learned a lot about being humble. Lost 18 straight games there. It was a pretty humbling experience. From there, I finally said, look, I'm old enough on my own now. I'm joining the Army. So I joined the Army in 93, full-time active duty. Went to Fort Stewart, from there to Korea to Fort Campbell, Kentucky to Fort Riley, Kansas, to Alabama, to Korea again, back to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then I retired at Fort Campbell, Kentucky in 2015. From 2015 to 2016, I was 365 days of being unemployed and trying to find my way and find that purpose in life again. Yeah, I mean, after going 22 years of putting on the boots every day and lacing up the uniform and then doing that, and then one day it just stops. And then you can't find that job that you thought you would find because you thought you had a plan mapped out and it didn't work out. It wasn't that it was a failure, it just didn't work for that first year. But 365 days later, I found a job. I was offered a job. I took it. I jumped on it with excitement. I worked for a veteran nonprofit for a couple of years. And then from there, I jumped into the position I'm in now where I train soldiers on Fort Campbell on emerging threats. So I've been doing that for 4 years now. In that time, I attained my master's from Georgetown in disaster and emergency management. And I am currently pursuing my Ph.D. from Liberty in Homeland Security. I published a book last year, December, called 13-Step Guide to Success. In December of 2020, I came up with the crazy idea to start the Misfit Nation because I had about 8 hours left in a week to do stuff. So I came up with the podcast, and that's been going awesome. The idea behind it was to highlight veterans, let them tell their stories so you can get some of that burden off their chest and help them say, hey, exhale, and be able to breathe again and get that PTSD monkey off them and monster off their back so they don't go into the darkness, because we lose so many veterans because they keep all the stories tied up and they don't think anyone wants to listen to them. I did that for a little while, and then they said, hey, we need other help. We need people that can show us how to be business people, how to start a business, be an entrepreneur, how to write books, how to get into music, how to get to Hollywood. So I've got all kinds of subject matter experts that would come on and help them. And we just published our 189th episode yesterday. So it's a pretty good ride.
Man, congrats on that. And it almost sounds like it's like a mini class session. So whoever career path the listeners trying to find, they can easily learn that from your guest that's on the show.
Exactly.
And speaking of that, veterans are very important when it comes to civilians. What's some of the best ways that we can be involved to help and support veterans?
I think the best way is for a little while there during the global war on terrorism, like when the Warrior Project came out, and they were promoting this thing that kind of went backwards, where the veterans are being told they were broken and you can't do things because you're broken, or people don't like you because you're broken, or you have these experiences. What I like to see is businesses and other industry and civilian activities to just give them a hand up. Don't give them a hand out. Give them a hand up. Say, hey, sister, hey, brother, what do you want to do? You want to become a writer? Let me help you out. Let me show you how to do this. Or you want to start working here? This is what we'll start you at, but I know what your skill set. You're going to move up quickly. We just have to see you perform and do it. Just give them a chance and give them a hand up, not a handout. And that's what I like to see.
And that's good to know. And with you being that individual who's been through that process, who had to transition into military life, into civilian life, once you found a way, if I can call it, was it a system that you found? Or was it just being around like-minded people? What was it for you that helped you along the way to transition from military into a civilian world?
I think it was when I got the first job, I was around there's a lot of veterans that worked there in my office. So being around them, so like you said, like-minded individuals, we sat around and we joke and we talk. It was just like being in the military, but that kind of eased the burden. But we also, at that same time, I was able to help other veterans and mentor them as they went through what we call the 6-month fellowship program, where they would go back to the communities where they either joined from or where they got out from, and volunteer at a nonprofit for 6 months, 20 hours a week. And I would mentor them through that and help them to find their purpose. But while I was helping them to find their purpose, I realized my purpose at that point right there. So everyone has a different thing that puts the aha moment or the light on. When I was able to help these young women and men as they were doing their 6 months and transitioning out and seeing them light up, that showed me that I was doing something right. And I found that purpose again, and I lost the day I took my boots off. And once I put that in perspective and did that, I haven't looked back since. Everything I do now is for the veteran community or for soldiers, as I do at my day job.
And someone listening right now, and they're like, okay, man, we hear about that, quote unquote, find your purpose. And maybe they're just in a space where it's just not clicking right now. What do you say to that individual to help them understand what it really means to find your purpose?
Right. To find your purpose, it doesn't mean that you're going to find a cure to something. It's to build a building or something. It's to find a thing that makes your heart palpitate, that you go out there and you feel like if you're doing it, it's not work. It's something that gives you joy to do. So for me, it's to mentor others or help others to get back to transition better than I did, to use my life lessons to help them. That serves my purpose. Or now with the Travis Mania Foundation, I go out and I mentor youth so they can be the next leaders of our great country. So for others, it could be helping someone get out of a rut. Hey, let me motivate you. Let's go out for a run today. And that's my purpose now. My purpose is to make sure you get up every day and we go for a run. But in order to find it, you have to know what you're actually passionate about. So if you know what you're passionate about, but you kind of lost it along the way because you maybe wound up in a spiral and you wound up down, you just got to pause for a second and stop letting all the noise kind of around, because we have a lot of noise around us these days with the media. And if you have your phone, something's always barking at you. You need to just pause and kind of reset and say, who was I X amount of years ago? Was it 4 years ago, a year ago? Who was I then? What made me feel like I was doing something right? And that's where you got to get back to that again. How do I get back to doing something right again and get back out of my own way and do the right thing and find that purpose?
Man, I like that key word, reset. And I think it goes in line with the name of the show, Refocus, because yes, there are times where you're going to have to reset, whether you want to or not. And as someone yourself who's been successful, what's some examples that you have in your own life where you had to reset to remind yourself, like, okay, I'm here for the long run, but I have to kind of scale back and remember what the mission's about?
I can go back into my military service in Afghanistan, December 31st, 2010. I had been in country since September. I took over a platoon, and we called ourselves the Misfits. This is where the Misfit Nation came from, really. Because we came from all different walks of life, all different jobs, and we became one family, one platoon. But on December 31st of 2010, one of our own was lost. He stepped on a pressure plate mine. Him or a lieutenant was what stepped on it, and he was killed, and the lieutenant lost 3 limbs. At that moment, my sense of purpose at that time kind of got rattled. And I got angry. Of course, you go through the whole emotional roller coaster. You go anger, sadness, just get emotional and anxiety, adrenaline's pumping. But I had to sit back and say, if I let this consume me right now, if I let this take me over, who am I to tell my soldiers not to do stuff? Who am I to lead them out of here? We had 4 months left. We had to do all the right things to get out of there whole at that point, and all of us come home. So I had to hit that reset button right there, change some of my style, and kind of become not just a platoon sergeant, but also think as a father and think of how these young men and women were thinking right now that they lost a charismatic leader. What did I need to do to keep them motivated to move forward and keep myself pumped up to go? So I had to reset and do that. Fast forward to 2015 when I got out, and now I have no one to lead. It's just me and my dogs at home. And I'm applying to jobs, getting told, no, we can't afford you. We can't do this, can't do that. You want too much money. Your education is not high enough. I had to sit back and evaluate myself, and I hit pause. I hit the pause button. I kind of respawned, reset, and say, I got to refocus this and concentrate on what's going to make me get ahead. And finally, the stars aligned and everything aligned, and I got that job, and everything kind of paved its way forward from there. But it takes getting knocked down to reset and come back. And I think that's what happened.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Rich LaMonica, amazing podcast host as well, man. You're doing your thing with the podcast world, but also amazing veteran of the United States Army. And there's so many things you said that just really sticks. And part of it is you have to get knocked down sometimes. And I think that helps us to remain human. Like reality hits and life hits, and it's like a test, but it's like, what are you going to do though? Like, what are you going to decide to do? Are you going to quit, or are you going to find a way to get around somebody that's going to inspire you or coach you? Or I had someone on my show who she was also an Army veteran, and she said sometimes it was a couple of people that had the same idea. One was Army veteran, the other one was the actual life coach. But they both were saying similar core grounds of sometimes you have to find that inner leader and develop that person, because we can only focus on other people and what they can do for us and say to us. But until we actually do something with the material that they give us, it's all the same. Until we change, until we dig in deep and say, okay, no one else is going to do this for me. I have to find my way out.
Exactly. And I think that is kind of what, if you look at the big picture of what's going on in our country in the last, say, 8 years or so, the big picture is people are stuck in their own way. If it's not the way I always wanted it to be, it's not going to be right. If you can just refocus your aperture and say, look, we all want the same thing if we just sit down and talk to each other. Yeah. If we sit down and talk to each other, we can see that if we reset our minds and say, hey, look, this is what I believe should happen. And you're sitting across from that person, they say, that's the same thing I believe. Then why are we yelling at each other? Why are we fighting? We should be fighting to do that same thing, to make our communities better and move our community to the city or whatever, move out and make it better. And I think, like you said, if you reset the inner leader and push that forward, I think everyone will find that light at the end of the tunnel.
And talking to those who are listening, who are not involved in the military lifestyle, what are some of the fundamentals that you can share with just people who have not been in the military, but what are some of the core fundamentals that people can actually practice and set in motion in their personal life and professional life that can have some impact in their community?
Definitely. First thing you want to do every day is start stacking your victories every day. Don't worry about, your failures there. Everyone's going to, you mess something up every day. We all do. We're all imperfect. That's how we were made. But when you wake up in the morning, you stand up, that's a victory for me right now. For many people, it's a victory just to get up in the morning. Make your bed. That's another victory. Brush your teeth, victory. Stack them victories each day. So by the end of the day, you count up how many victories you had. Say it's 21 day. The next day you want to get 21 and then 22. Try to beat yourself every day. That's one way to make yourself a strong person and move forward. And as you try to build your community, build your circle, like I tell you people in my book, first step, tell the people around you how you care, how you feel about them. Don't hide what you feel. Hey, brother, I love you. Hey, I love you, sis. And give them a hug, give them a high five. Go outside and breathe the air. Don't stay behind the keyboard. Go outside and breathe the air. While outside, actually look up. Don't look at your phone. Look up. See those 3 inches, you'll see the whole world. Say hello to a human. Say, hey, how you doing today? And that might just light that person's day up. Just to see you say hello to them and smile. Some people just don't like that anyway, so you're going to have those people who will be angry no matter what. But if you do that enough, you'll see so many people that will start having a better day just by you saying hello to them. While you're outside, get out of your 3-foot circle and live your life. And when you're outside that circle, try to see what's wrong with your community. So you start in your neighborhood. Say, hey, go to your neighbor. What do you think we can do to make our block better? Once you get that block better, spread out to the next block. So you have that whole community, a subdivision. And then if one of you has that leadership charisma, move up to the county or city level and try to become a leader there to make the bigger change at the local level. Once you get the local level cleaned up, the rest will start taking care of itself because people will see that what is happening local is good. And that's what we want nationally as well. You want what's happening locally to happen nationally, and then everyone will live in this kind of harmony where, yeah, there'll be some hiccups here and there, but it won't be catastrophic like we've seen in the last 8 years or so. And most of all, be humble. You stay hungry and you keep hustling. As long as you have that humble nature to yourself, and when you do get knocked down, you'll get back up. You're not judged by how many times you get knocked down. You're judged by how many times you get back up. So if you get punched in the face, you fall down, you get back up. You stay hungry. You keep hustling until you get that victory you want and keep stacking those victories every day.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to Rich LaMonica, and today's topic, finding purpose. I mean, it's just everywhere and every angle of today's conversation, because purpose without discipline. Now, that is something my last guest touched on. She was a former Army veteran. She talked about how important it is to be disciplined, because discipline will remind you of your purpose. Because discipline versus motivation, like, it's okay to feel good, right? Because someone says some inspiring words to you. But it's actually going to be the discipline that's going to continue to press you to push forward, even on the days where you don't feel like it. How has that helped you with your personal and professional career?
And you hit the nail on the head there, and your guess is 100% correct. If you set your goals at the beginning of the year, I don't like to call them resolutions, you set 12 goals at the beginning of the year, and you keep them in front of you. Don't have them just tucked away somewhere, like, or on your phone or whatever. Have them somewhere you have to see it every day, those goals. If you have to break them down by month, you see that goal, you wake up, you look at it, where am I at that goal right now? Have that discipline to challenge yourself and do that goal. Don't sit back and say it's going to happen for me. Things don't work like that. You have to stand up, you have to fight for you, and you have to push forward. So if you set a goal to go to the gym, I had a guest last week, and she told me this, and this resonated with me. If you're afraid to go to the gym, the first day, just go and bring a change of clothes. Go into the locker room, change the clothes, and then leave. You already started. Now you're at the gym. You've started. The next day, do a little more. Take the change and maybe walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes, and then build it up until you have that discipline built into you. It takes about 21 days to affect change in your life if you do it constantly. After those 21 days, you'll notice that going to the gym isn't a problem because you're doing it now just out of it's as a habit now. You built that new habit, and that discipline set in there. Well, I have to go to the gym now. I know I have to pack my bag and actually probably bring soap now, so I wash after I go to the gym before I go to work. And you have that discipline built in, and then you work towards that next goal that you set for the next month.
Man, I really like that concept, because you can use that for almost anything in life. You know, if you're trying to write a new book, well, you can't write the whole book in one night.
Right.
You know, I heard people who promoted their book on my show, and they talk about the process of being an an author. It's not that difficult. It really isn't. It's kind of like the story with you shared with the gym. If you just commit to the ideas that you want inside the book, and then commit to writing a few sentences, and then commit to writing a paragraph, then commit to writing a new page, and keep pushing yourself to keep doing it and keep doing it. Before you know it, you have a book. Before you know it, with the gym story you said, you have a healthy lifestyle. So someone listening right now, and they want to learn a little bit more about your show that you do, the Misfit Nation, and they're a veteran themselves, and they would like to share their story and share their perspective, what's the best way that they can contact you to find out more information?
Thank you. If they go to themisfitnation.com, that's TheMisfitNation.com, you can hit contact there, and it'll go right to me. I usually answer within an hour or so, unless I'm in a meeting at work. I'll get it, and we'll get you lined up for the show. Veterans get top priority, but all SMEs on like all the areas I spoke about earlier, I have a schedule for them. They can come on, and we're going to start doing live shows here probably in the next couple of weeks, where every 3 nights a week we'll do a live broadcast with a guest on, and we'll talk to them and have them tell us their story and what their subject that they're an expert in. So that's themisfitnation.com, and use the contact form, and we'll get right back with you.
Have you had closing statements, words that you will share with someone who's listening and they're thinking about joining military, or maybe they just got out and they're about to transition to civilian life? With some general words of encouragement that you give that individual before they take that next step in their life?
Definitely. If you're a young man or woman thinking of joining the military, and you think you feel like it's a good fit for you, do it. Go into it, and when you get in there, act like you don't know anything and learn everything. I went in and thought I knew everything and kind of hit that hiccup, and I got taught really quick that I didn't know anything, but I learned on the fly, and I learned that as you learn from others in the military, the stronger you get. Pick a good career field, something that'll translate to the civilian side. So if you like to work in internet, computer software, IT stuff, go into to that same thing in the military, communications or into cyber. Do that kind of stuff. If you're transitioning out, have a plan when you're transitioning out. You know when you're getting out probably a year out before you're getting out. When you raise your right hand to join, you know at some point it's going to end. So as you get to that transition point, go to the classes they give you. For the Army, it's a Soldier for Life. The Air Force, Navy, Marines all have a similar program where they teach you how to do resumes. They talk to you about getting on LinkedIn, because if you're not linked in, you're linked out. Build your network. Once you build that network, your network will work for you, and they'll help you. They'll lift you up. If you have people in your network that aren't lifting you up, they're not part of your network. They're just there. Move away from them. Stay with the positivity and keep moving forward, and things will work out for you.
Man, Appreciate those words. Once again, talking to our guest, Rich LaMonica. Go to his website where he has his own show, The Misfit Nation. It is themisfitnation.com. Man, once again, I want to say thank you for taking time, your schedule, to talking to I'm Refocused Radio, man.
I appreciate you having me. Have a good night.